Counter-Narrative News, bringing you daily news today on Tuesday the 21st of March 2023. First of all, on this day, that's 21st of March, back in 1960, the white supremacist apartheid regime in South Africa, fully backed by the West of course, conducted one of its most notorious massacres called the Sharpeville Massacre, in which it killed some 69 people, including 8 women and 10 children, for them protesting against the so-called pass laws. Basically, in Sharpeville, 10,000 black people were forced to live in this township, and they had pass laws to contain and control the movement of travel of black people within South Africa. So people protested against this, led particularly by Robert Sobukwe of the Pan-African Congress, which led to this massacre. We would like you to signpost you to another episode we've uploaded today on Counter-Narrative News that goes deeper into this issue of the Sharpeville Massacre and shares some works and theories of the anti-apartheid grassroots revolutionary Steve Biko and his definition of black consciousness. So please go to our channel to see that. Going over to Britain, the government has tasked Louise Casey to conduct a report on the police, in which she's produced her 300-page report, which definitively says what everyone knows really at the grassroots, that the police are institutionally racist, homophobic and misogynist. This is not unlike the Police Reform Act of 2000, coming hot off the heels of radical black-led grassroots protests, which was seen around the justice campaign for Stephen Lawrence, who was killed in a racist attack in southeast London. No, there is no grassroots pressure on the police currently in Britain and in England. But this is born out of the fact that there's just a non-stop rolling, deepening scandals whereby the police themselves are exposing themselves as a totally saturated, violent, oppressive force. Now, the Tories are pretending to listen a little bit to the complaints about the police, but really, the Tories are very happy about the police's behaviour, and women's rights groups have complained that Suella Braverman, for example, who is one of the leading far-right Tory ministers, is being complacent about the level of violent misogyny and attacks on women by police officers. And that's quite the point, that in a context of growing fascisation, in a context whereby the capitalist global ruling classes are accruing the greatest super profits than they ever have in the last year or so, that exactly means also that the workers need to be controlled through terror and violence to ensure that they are terrorized into division and complacency and apathy. And it seems to be quite successful so far. Really, we should be seeing police stations under siege by grassroots protests, considering what's been exposed, but there is next to nothing. Going over to Xi Jinping's visit to Moscow to meet his quote-unquote best friend, Vladimir Putin. A few interesting reflections on this. Now, Putin has welcomed the Chinese so-called peace plan in relation to his initiation of his colonizing and colonial annexing mission in Ukraine. But of course, Putin would, because Xi Jinping's peace plan does not include that Russian forces withdraw from their illegal occupation of Ukraine. Now, this bodes really worryingly for especially oppressed nations of the global south, because a precedent has been set by the quote-unquote new leading poles in this emerging young multipolar world of Russia and China, in which Russia invades Kazakhstan in January 2022 to crush a workers' uprising. China absolutely backs it. The Sri Lankan working class rise up, and China absolutely backs the state which is repressing them and putting them into this immiseration. And now with Ukraine, you have Russia invading a smaller nation, and China basically justifying that and not demanding that Russia withdraw from its invasion. Now, what does that say to the possibilities of other workers' uprisings around the world, of other people and other nations who want to chart their non-aligned course in a socialistic direction that Russia and China don't like? What it means is that Russia and China may well carry on as they have in the conflicts of Kazakhstan and Ukraine, and aping somewhat the Western wars of neo-colonialism around Iraq and Afghanistan, etc. Very worrying. Finally, it's been reported that a few days ago, on March the 19th, a senior leader of the Palestinian liberation group, the Palestinian Islamic Jihad in Damascus, Ali Ramzi al-Aswad, has been killed by the intelligence services of the white supremacist colonial regime in Tel Aviv. This also comes at the same time where the finance minister of the Tel Aviv regime, Bezalel Smotrich, has said in Paris that, quote unquote, no such thing as Palestinians exist. And also, at the same time, the close client state of Western neocolonialism in the area, the United Arab Emirates, tells the Syrian leadership that it must return to the Arab fold. What kind of Arab fold is this when Arab nation after Arab nation is knocked out in terrible violence conducted by the colonizers, and these Arab states like the UAE and Saudi Arabia, etc., all join in that campaign. And also, it's been reported that Saudi Arabia is to reopen its embassy in Syria after 12 years, all coming on the heels of the Chinese brokered Iran-Saudi deal. This all very simply means that the normalization project, which means the neutralization of struggle against neocolonialism and its main agents in the region, which is the State of Israel and the Gulf monarchies, is proceeding apace, that their strategic interests are being protected also by China and Russia joining in this joint enterprise with Turkey, which is a leading NATO country, to deliver it. The country of Syria has to be focused in on as understanding all of this. Syria has been partitioned in a formal invitation by Putin, who reached out to the West to bomb Syria together, and then Putin came to accommodation on two colonial partitions in recent years in Syria, the Turkish occupation and the US occupation, who occupied different regions of northern Syria. This is a Russian-Israeli NATO project in the region, despite the tensions between these different players and despite the conflict in Ukraine, which is pitting NATO strategic interests against Russia's strategic interests. That's Counter Narrative News. We do hope you continue to support us by commenting and sharing. Do encourage people to subscribe to our fast-growing YouTube channel and follow us on Twitter at counter_CNN. And we would like to signpost you to many other videos that are uploaded today, including an inspirational video of the remarks and the leadership and the sacrifice of Chicago-based Black Panther Party for self-defense leader Fred Hampton. We wish you a fantastic day.